Hello everybody and welcome to day 47, where we are going to be talking about why it's important to always use less words when you can. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button below, go ahead and click it now, and whatever it is you're drinking today, grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. So one of the pillars of strong writing is being able to recognize where in a sentence we could cut down the number of words that we use to say the exact same thing. Now there are actually a couple of different reasons for why we would want to use less words whenever we can. And the first one is something we touched on briefly, which is that printing costs actually matter. So if you can say the same thing using less words, the whole book as a whole will actually take less money to print, which means then more profit, which we do like. So that's one reason. The second reason for using less words is because it a lot of times makes the sentence a little bit more concise and easier to read, so your readers don't fall prey to stumbling over a whole bunch of words in the sentence that don't necessarily have to be there. But the most important reason that we want to do this is actually for the story itself. And I know this is crazy, but I'm actually gonna let you guys have engineer brain for 5 minutes here. We're gonna talk about math for just a quick minute. I know you're like, am I watching the right videos? You are. Writers do use math too. So what I want you guys to think about is that if I take 20 words to say something, like an idea or a small plot point or getting across character information, if I take 20 words to say it and you can say the exact same thing in 10 words, you have now said exactly what I did, but in half the time. So when our readers read a page of my book and of your book, if you were writing twice as concisely as I was, they will get twice as much information in that page. That is twice as much emotion, twice as much plot, twice as much story and character development, and everything that they are in the book for. They will have gotten twice as much in the page than when I wrote it using 20 words instead of 10. So anytime you can use less words, it is to the benefit of your story. You always want to use less. And I'm reading your thoughts right now. You're like, Haley, we're trying to hit 50,000 words. Less is not more right now. But you know what? Eventually, you're gonna have to go edit them out anyways. I of course don't want you to slave over it and spend lots of time working on every single sentence getting it just right, but the more that you practice it, the easier this will become as you go on, and then maybe when you write your next book, you will be much quicker at writing concisely and editing won't take you as long when you finish. So it's not so much about getting the perfect sentence right now, but I wanna make you guys aware of this so that you can practice it as you go while you're writing so that it starts to come to you more naturally. So I wanna work through just a couple of examples here so you guys can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about when I say that we can cut a lot of these sentences down to use less words. So I want you to consider this sentence first. Alonzo ran through the door and out of the room in a panic, then took off down the hall as fast as his feet could possibly carry him. And you might actually pause the video for a second and see if you can spot all of the different places where we could cut words out of this. So one of them is superfluous details. So what I mean by that is whenever somebody goes out of a room, you actually don't need to say that they used the door. So we have actually two things that are saying the same thing, that he ran through the door and he ran out of the room. You don't have to use both of those because we know he's going through the door. We don't think he's jumping out the window. And if he is jumping out the window, that definitely needs to be specified. But I would actually challenge you eventually when we get to the editing phase to go through and see all of the times that your characters use doors to exit rooms or enter rooms. There is so much that we do with doors that doesn't need to be explained. And there are little tips and tricks that you can learn along the way. Like I always use the word from instead of out of because I know that you can almost always replace out of with from, and it's one word instead of two, and I just do that naturally now. But a lot of the time it is coming up with the stronger verbs that takes out a lot of the words in the sentence that don't need to be there. So for this one, instead of saying that he took off down the hall as fast as his feet could possibly carry him, that can all be condensed into the word sprinted. He sprinted down the hall. All of that is replaced with one word. And then next we'll take a look at this sentence, which says, "The rain was falling lightly on me for a moment as I ran quickly out to my car." So the first thing that I would recommend taking out is the unnecessary designation of time in that for a moment. We don't have to say that the rain was falling on me for a moment. We know that it's gonna rain on her all the way from where she's running from wherever she's at to the car. And it's not like for a moment is really showing anything anyways. It's really not helping the sentence at all, and it doesn't have to be there. And then as with the last sentence, we wanna replace that verb and adverb pair with a strong verb instead. So instead of falling lightly, we can say pattered. And instead of ran quickly, we can say dashed. So that cuts words out immediately as well. So the much stronger version of this sentence would be rain pattered against my jacket as I dashed to my car. And the last thing that you'll see that I did there was I took out a couple of words that we really just didn't need. We didn't need the, and we also didn't need out. So a lot of times the words out, up, and down, they come to us naturally because we would say them, but they are actually not needed in our writing. So instead of saying he sat down, we can just say he sat. Or instead of saying I jumped up from my chair, I can just say I jumped from my chair. So it's not a definite rule that you can never use these words again, but keep an eye out for them as you're writing, because words like up, down, out, that, of, the, just, those are words that we use naturally while we speak, but that doesn't mean we have to use them in our writing, because a lot of times our sentences will read just as well without them. So as always, it is about the word count, but I do want to remind you guys about the time that I had to cut 50,000 words out of my first book because it was way too long. So I also don't want you to be in that book either. But at the end of the day, for this challenge, what matters is getting to 50,000 words. And so yesterday we should have been at a total of 26,672. I wrote 2,098 words for a total of 29,448. And today we are going for 28,339. So I'm gonna jump off and write mine. And if you guys haven't hit that subscribe button below, go ahead and click it now, and I will see you tomorrow for day 48 of the 60-day novel writing challenge.